Like, imagine being a child and your parents are like, bye-bye, honey, see you when you're 16 and you've gotten plastic surgery. Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm just gonna jump right into it. Today I am talking about Uglies. It is a movie that just came out on Netflix starring Joey King. It's based on a dystopian novel from the 2000s, and I watched the trailer the other day and was like, wow, this looks like something. So I watched it and I need to talk about it because what did I just watch? Also, no, I've never read the book. I'm not really going to talk about the book because I don't know exactly what happens in it and what's the difference between the book and the movie. I'm just going to be talking about the movie because the movie on its own is diabolical. So if you're going to come to me and say, no, you gotta give the book a chance, the book is so much better than the movie, just know that I believe you. That's almost always the case, but I'm going to be talking about just the movie today. So the premise of the movie, as explained by Joey King's character, is that this is basically set in a society hundreds of years into the future. And in this universe, hundreds of years prior, humans became overly reliant on fossil fuels and depleted all of the Earth's natural resources, which made the planet descend into war and chaos. The people who lived before the destruction of civilization are called Rusties. Not really important information, at least in the movie. And after the destruction of civilization, everyone was tasked with trying to rebuild their society and come up with a plan for an actual renewable resource, which ended up being this plant called the white tiger orchid, which powers their cities. In rebuilding society, the solution they came up with to maintaining peace was to have this transformation system in which everyone on their 16th birthday would undergo a life-changing plastic surgery operation to become their best self. And this is something that is poorly explained because they don't really explain why they made this a thing. Like, yeah, they were like, what if no one got discriminated against based on if they're ugly or they're pretty, and yet this whole city is split into two parts, one where the uglies are and one where the pretties are. And also, obviously, once you turn 16, you have no choice over getting the surgery, and if you decide that you don't want to get the surgery, people are gonna look down on you and you're gonna be separated from all the pretty people for life. Not a very well thought out solution. But also, the reason for this whole system in the first place is still very blurry. Like, at least in the Hunger Games, we know that the Capitol is very oppressive, and the Hunger Games is a thing to keep the citizens in line and also punish them for past rebellions. And the whole division of the districts is to organize people by how they contribute to Panem's economy. It doesn't seem like this logic is thought out in Uglies, like how we went from depleting the Earth's natural resources to pretty privilege. Yeah. They just apparently also have the mindset that if everyone is pretty and looked perfect, then no one would have conflict, which is stupid. So society is divided into pretties and uglies, pretties being the people who have undergone the surgery and uglies being the people who haven't. And can I just say, when Joey King's character gives all this exposition in the first 2 minutes of the movie, her character starts with the line, "My story today begins in the past." And I just felt compelled to share that. So after that, we see Joey King's character as Tally looking into the mirror, and she goes, "Mirror, show me my perfect version of me." And there's this online portal called Morphe that pulls up with her face, except it's her with the most AI mewing, bold glamour Snapchat ass filter. And then she gets a notification on her ring which projects a message from her friend Nose, played by Chase Stokes, and he says, "Race you to the rooftop," so she goes to the rooftop to meet him. We get a glimpse of this post-apocalyptic world, and we also get a sense that Tally is used to sneaking out and going to places where she shouldn't be. So she goes to the rooftop, and we learn that Nose, her friend, that's just his nickname. His nickname is actually Paris, and I just want to let you all know that I was multitasking while watching this movie, and I had subtitles on to like make sure that I follow. So I misread, and for the first 10 minutes of the movie, I really thought his name was actually Perish. Like, I'm gonna perish. For some reason, Paris and Tally have these high-tech glasses that can see into buildings, so they look into a casino on the other side of the city where all the pretties are, and Lucky Blue Smith is there? And you know this man is expensive as hell because he was only in this movie for about 2 frames. So Tally and Paris are excited and nervous because Paris is turning 16 the next day, which means that he is going to undergo the surgery, whereas Tally has to wait a few more months for that. Paris is about to seemingly confess his feelings for Tally, and then they see a government drone fly by, so they decide to go back to their dorms, but they promise each other to meet at the bridge between the ugly side and the pretty side of the city in exactly a month. So the assembly the next day happens before Paris goes and gets his surgery. We're introduced to Dr. Cable, who is the head of special circumstances, whatever the that means. So afterwards, Tally is counting down the days until she gets to meet Paris at the bridge and learn all about the pretty side of the city, but he's not responding to any of her messages, because why would he? He's pretty now. So it gets to a month later, Tally goes to the bridge and Paris isn't there, surprise, surprise, so she sneaks over to the pretty side of the city and goes to one of their parties. And it looks like a drug trip. It looks very psychedelic, neon lights, city pop aesthetic. So she meets Paris there and he looks crazy. Let me just tell you that this man looked perfectly fine before this surgery and now, in my opinion, looks worse because they really handsome Squidwarded him. So Paris is like, what are you doing here, Tally? And Tally's like, oh, what do you mean? You were supposed to meet me at the bridge and you weren't there. And he was like, oh yeah, that. I don't really know what we talk about. You'll get it. You'll get it when you're pretty. And she's like, what, we're best friends. Then she's detected as an unwanted guest at the party, so the alarms go off, officials start looking for her, and she manages to escape and go back to the bridge and she hides under it. And then this ugly... It's so weird to me to be classifying people as ugly and pretty, like the terminology they use in this movie, because it sounds like I am insulting them. But you get what I mean. This girl named Shay from the ugly side of the city comes in on a hoverboard and saves Tally and takes her back. Shay was seen briefly at the assembly before Paris got his surgery done, but we don't really know her at this point. So Shay and Tally start talking once they go back to the ugly side of the city, and they become very quick friends. They break into the kitchen together and eat, which, you know, is exactly how I would abuse my power. Shay explains to Tally that all the friends she had that got the surgery just stopped talking to her and like changed a lot as people. And they also realize they have the same birthday, September 9th, so they're mutual Virgos. So after this one scene, Shay and Tally are besties. They're skipping class together so that Shay can teach Tally how to use the hoverboard. Also, she has all these other cool technologies that she teaches Tally how to use, and apparently no books are allowed in this civilization, but Shay has a book on the smoke that she offers to Tally. So the smoke is this renegade settlement, this established camp of people who have fled the city and operation and live outside of it and reject this whole stupid system. This guy named David is supposedly the leader, and Shay is like, Tally, I've seen them, they exist, they're not just a rumor, and they're gonna come soon, we should go, we should escape, we should flee this whole city and join them. So Shay is like, come on, Tally, they're gonna be here soon, and Tally is like, no, Shay, we can't do this. If we try to do this and we get caught, we're gonna be denied surgery for the rest of our lives and we'll be alone. And Shay is like, Tally, I have no intention on ever getting this surgery, just come join me. But Tally insists that Shay is just afraid to grow up, and Shay is like, girl, wake up. And even though Shay tries to explain to Tally that fleeing the city is the only way to freedom, Tally says, I don't want to be free, I want to be pretty. So Shay writes down directions in code that Tally will only understand and gives it to her and leaves. Then we get to Tally and Shay's birthday. Tally is in line to get the procedure done, and then Bree from Selling Sunset is calling everyone up one by one. This movie seems to have a low budget, but also at the same time not, because they're just like getting these random cameos of famous people. So everyone's been called up. Tally is last, but instead of taking her to her procedure, they take her to Dr. Cable. And Dr. Cable says that they're going to withhold surgery from her indefinitely until she tells them where Shay and the smoke is. So she's given the ultimatum of having to isolate herself for the rest of her life or give up where her friend is and put her life at risk. Tally lies and says she doesn't know where Shay is, so she just gets sent back to the Uglies dorm. She's like shunned by everyone there. But then Paris sneaks over to her dorm and he's like, okay, so they want you to tell them where Shay is, just tell them where Shay is. And Tally's like, no, I made a promise to Shay to not do that. And he was like, well, you made a promise to me that you would be with me and that you get the surgery and stay with me. And she's like, okay, well, you were really weird the last time we interacted and you haven't messaged me in months. And he's like, okay, yes, but you'll understand when you're pretty. And also, if Shay really is in danger because the smoke is wrong, then you will actually be saving her by telling them where she is. And he keeps reiterating to her that she'll understand when she's pretty, which... okay. But he does manage to reach Tally by suggesting that this David guy is brainwashing people into joining the smoke, so Shay really is in danger. So Tally goes back to Dr. Cable and says that she doesn't know exactly where the smoke and where Shay is, but she does know how to get to them. So then Dr. Cable asks Tally to be essentially a mole and join the smoke, and then signal them with a necklace that she gives her so that they'll know where the smoke is. And in return, Tally will get the procedure. So she hoverboards away And mind you, she's hoverboarding on broken bridges. Like, how did she learn how to do that? She's experiencing nature for the first time. Meanwhile, we get the reveal that Paris only went to Tally's dorm to talk to her upon Dr. Cable's request. And then Dr. Cable asked him how he felt seeing Tally, and he said that he felt good seeing her, and he felt things that he hadn't felt since before his surgery, and he sort of remembered a little bit of who he was. So then Dr. Cable promises him a super surgery to give him more clarity. Then we go to Tally, and she wakes up surrounded by a fire, and then David finds her and rescues her from the fire and takes her back to a camp where he and some other people from the smoke are. And while she's there, she finally reunites with Shay. They're obviously very, very happy to see each other, but later that night when they're in a tent together, Tally is like, I don't know, Shay, they seem really sus. This all seems really sus. And Shay is like, you just got here. Are you just here so you can convince me to go back? Because I'm not doing that. And also, if that's all you're here for, you need to leave now. And Tally lies and says, no, I'm genuinely here to learn about the smoke, and I will decide whether I should stay or go back, but I'm not going to make you go back with me. So David and the smoke are teaching Tally a lot of things that contradict all these things that she's been taught her whole life. For example, those flowers that are so good for the environment and powering the cities are actually very, very toxic for the environment and are killing the planet. So that's why David and the smoke, they set the field of those flowers on fire. Tally goes with them on a mission to see how they do things, but then they see some city scouts in the area, and Tally risks her life to save Shay when things go haywire. Mind you, the smoke have been on the low for a while. Like, Dr. Cable has been trying to find them. So when this happens, there's this guy named Croy who's in the smoke who's like, this is a coincidence. The scouts were here the day after Tally gets here, so that's suspicious. Maybe Tally is suspicious, but David is like, well, she risked her life to save Shay, so I'm gonna choose to trust her. It's worth noting that since Tally has joined them, David's taken a particular liking to her and vice versa. Like, Tally stepped out of the tent one night and watched him bathe. So there's that. So then this little group finally gets back to the smoke's actual base camp, where Tally learns about the whole community, new food, new ways of doing things. David gives an uplifting speech and teaches Tally how to shoot a bow and arrow. We're getting to the part of the story where we're getting some like YA romance, because David and Tally are spending a lot of time together. And on the subject of their parents, David explains to Tally how his parents raised him outside of the city and he's still with them and is still close to them. And Tally's like, oh, that sounds really nice. My parents were like, send me your morph profile or morphe profile, whatever the hell it's called, and let me know when you've gotten the procedure when you're 16, and then we can reunite. And David is like, oh my god, that's horrible. Like, imagine being a child and your parents are like, bye bye honey, see you when you're 16 and you've gotten plastic surgery. David, because he likes Tally so much, gives her these gloves that he handmade. You've heard of a promise ring. Now get ready for handmade gloves. Later, Shay sees Tally wearing these gloves and she's like, oh my god, did David give those to you? Gifts, especially handmade ones, hold a lot of meaning in this community. He likes you. Shay seems upset by this though, because she's like, you need to decide whether you're going back or staying with us, because this 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing is not fair to any of us. So having this in mind, David and Tally are hanging out again, and David asks Tally what made her change her mind and actually come find the smoke. And she's like, well, I decided I want to choose my own path, but also I was hesitant at first because I heard that you are really radical. And David is like, yeah, well, social change is radical to anyone, at least at first. And she's like, no, that's not what I mean. And he's like, what do you mean? And she tells him that she's heard rumors that he and the smoke have been making this weapon of mass destruction because that's what Dr. Cable told her. So David is like, okay, come with me. And then he takes Tally to go meet his parents at his parents' house, where Tally learns that that book Shay had actually belonged to his dad. And David convinces his parents to tell Tally what they've been working on because he trusts her. So David's parents explain that before the smoke, they were working in the city as doctors with cosmetic surgeons for the state. And in the last year that they were living in the city, his mom was appointed to the Committee for Morphological Standards. I think that's what the name is. But she had access to a lot of information, including a medical database for everyone. His parents were working on how to make the surgical operation safer because they learned that people had actually died from it and the government was keeping that information from its citizens. They also learned that the procedure creates lesions in the brain and makes you not care about anything or anyone, so you're sedated into a false sense of satisfaction and happiness. When they realized this, Dr. Cable showed up and told them to stop digging and stop their research because she was the one behind this, trying to gain control of everyone. So David's parents and their inner circle of doctors were trying to work on a cure for this procedure, but they had to eventually flee. So now now they live outside of the city and they're dedicating the rest of their lives to trying to work on this cure. However, there is a synthetic component that's apparently not found outside of the city and they can only find in the city. So David's mom for now has a base cure until she's able to get the nanosynth from the city. Tally is quite upset by all of this because she's seen the light and she's now realized that Dr. Cable has been lying to her and also using her. So she burns the necklace, but burning the necklace activates the signal to Dr. Cable. So the next day, an army of pretties who have undergone the super procedure, including Paris, show up with Dr. Cable to capture everyone in the smoke. Dr. Cable confronts David's parents to ask them where David is since he's the leader of the smoke, but since they won't give him up, Paris kills his dad. Then Dr. Cable's like, "Thank you for joining us, Tally," and Shay and David are like, "Tally, what the fuck?" And then Dr. Cable is like, "Haha, I have all your procedures scheduled. You are going to become pretty. Say goodbye to being ugly." And then Tally, being held back, runs into a cabin where some pretties run after her. She starts a fire in there to kill some of them. She escapes through the window and then uses a bow and arrow to kill some of the other ones outside. So she runs away. She meets David in a cave and David is like, "You liar bitch, I can't believe I trusted you." And she's like, "In my defense, I didn't know about any of this before I came here. I was the one being brainwashed. But I'm sorry that they killed your dad." But David, being so sick and tired of this, because of course he is, he's like, "I'm going to save them and I'm going alone without you because I don't trust you." But Tally is like, "You've never been into the city before. You need me, but also let me make this right." So the two of them go to the city and they arrive there in the next scene. We don't see their journey at all. And then Tally and David somehow get to where the smoke are being held captive and they release them and break them out without any struggle. No fights, no traps, no near-death experiences, no nothing. They go there and break them out without any struggle at all. As the smoke are running out, they tell Tally and David that they already took Shay to go get the procedure. So Tally, David, and David's mom all go to where Shay is, and again, they manage to get to her without any struggle at all. No fights, no traps, no nothing. But they're too late because Shay has already undergone the surgery, and when she turns around and reveals herself to them, she looks insane. Like, I cannot believe we're expected to look at this and think that they're going from ugly to pretty when they're going from attractive, normal human being to cyborgs. So Dr. Cable comes in and she's like, "Haha, you thought all of you are about to be pretty now. Free thinking is a cancer, Tally." And as all three of them are about to go through this procedure by force, Corey comes in and sets the entire place on fire and the three of them manage to escape until Tally comes face to face with Paris and she's like, "Hey, we're Squint and Nose, remember? We're best friends, remember?" But he's about to kill her, so David runs in between them and he starts fighting Paris, and this is the first time we get an actual fight scene in this entire movie. Tally then jumps in to get Paris off of David, and then Paris ends up dangling off of a ledge and Tally tries to save him and get him up, but he falls to his death. I know I said this is finally the one fight scene we get in this movie, but I have to say it is very short because again, they do all of this way too easily. So they all hoverboard to safety, and then David's mom reveals that she was able to somehow get the nanosynth while they were in there. Like, I don't know at what point she did this, but she did? I don't even know how that was possible at any point in the movie, but she has it, and the base cure is in David's pouch, so they have everything they need to make the cure. And of course, everyone wants Shay to be the test subject for the cure because everyone wants Shay back, but David's mom refuses because she technically can't consent to that. So because Tally feels awful about this whole thing kind of being her fault, she volunteers herself and consents to becoming pretty and having them use the cure on her. So she gets on a ledge, she gets the attention of one of Dr. Cable's drones, and she says, "Turn me pretty," and we cut to black, and then the last final scene of the movie is Yassified Joey King, and that's the end of the movie. It's so, like, I don't know. I feel like it would have absolutely served 10 years ago in the YA dystopian phase of cinema. Not today, unfortunately. It's rushed, the writing is not very good, the budget of this movie is very confusing, and the actors are objectively beautiful, but like, yeah, the movie was not good. And I just needed to tell you all how ridiculous my viewing experience of this movie was. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a like so I know that this was worth something. Also, leave a comment below what you think about the movie or what you think about the book, especially in comparison to the movie since I didn't talk about that, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already.